another show. Well, the summer's almost over. And have you guys noticed that people are just way too excited about Halloween? I can see Christmas decorations going up a little early because of the snow and, people are busy. But man, those Halloween decorations have been up for a month. And people are just way too excited about it, man. And to be perfectly honest with you, some of the people, not to profile anybody, they just kind of live that way. Some of them just leave up the decorations all year round. I had a neighbor that was just way too excited. They used to put all the gravestones and everything. It was ridiculous. But they'd talk about it all year. And, a couple months before Halloween, it would all be up. Oh, gosh. But it's that time of year. The witches, the warlocks, the werewolves. Yeah. We know all about that. Yes, we do. There's probably some hidden stuff under that, but that's not what this show is about. We're going to talk about the scapegoat. Oh, yeah. Scapegoating. All targeted individuals know about that, I guarantee. Yeah, not one golden child listening to this. And that's the way it is with narcissist abuse, that family situation where you have one person that takes all the negative energy. And, the weird thing is that, the people that are doing it really see that black and white scenario. They start to blame the scapegoat for all the things that are wrong in the family. I would imagine that there are a lot of targeted individuals who have experienced that, probably all of them, because the thing about targeted individuals is that, it'd be one thing if, a social scenario went bad and they got put into that place of a scapegoat, or it was just in their family and they needed to heal and kind of move on with their life and not get validation from people, and they just kind of had to tough it and kind of move out and move along. But it's not that easy because it's something that just follows them. And in my opinion, I think it's spiritual. I think it's demonic. I think that people are being influenced all the time by the spiritual dimension. I think that's how wars start. I think that's why people are prejudiced. I think that's, why a lot of things happen. Whenever you see something that's unnatural, you got to be suspicious, okay? And I've seen it, okay? I've seen people that have been persecuted and put in that place of a scapegoat that didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong at all. And all of a sudden, everyone, in the group was, I don't know what it is about that person. Just every time it's just a negative vibe or whatever. And people they get that inkling in their mind that this person is evil or something about them is irritating or whatever. And they just start venting. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I know all of you have experienced it. And when it's something that follows someone around, that's unnatural. And I think that's what targeted individuals deal with. I think it's spiritual. But, usually it starts in the family. And that golden child, wouldn't it be nice to have that delusion that you were just a good person? You were that shining little star that just happened to bless everybody's life, Oh, what we do without you, But that's a delusion too. And the belief that the scapegoat is some type of second-class human being, a sub-creature that deserves everyone's hate and frustration, the little troll of the family. That's delusional. It's crazy. And it's kind of funny when you're dealing with targeted individuals and how they get gaslighted and put in that position of the scapegoat. The people that are persecuting the individual that is supposedly mentally ill are really the craziest ones in the scenario. You gotta love the irony. You guys have all heard the saying, try to lie to yourself, but these people do it. They do, and there's some real crazy chain reactions that are going on in this scenario, okay? And we'll use the family as an example, and these people are supposed to love each other, right? It's one thing for, a social group that's not related to pick a scapegoat. That's bad. It's evil. Okay, but it's even worse when you're dealing with a family scenario, okay? But, what happens is these people, they know on whatever level that what they're doing is wrong, and it causes them to be frustrated. But as they start to see the true reflection of who they are, they just can't handle it. Okay, and of course they need someone to blame, and they need someone to vent on. They've got plenty of negative emotions and stuff like that they've got to get out. Not to mention the fact that it elevates their delusional status, right? And so, in order to do that, well, they've got to have someone else to blame. And instead of snapping out of it, instead of changing the behavior that they know they're lying to themselves, well, they just abuse the target even more, right? It's your fault. It's you. The family would be perfect if it wasn't for you. Or I'm feeling this way because it's your fault. And it's just crazy. It is literally insane. The darkness that surrounds this whole scenario of gang stalking is just amazing. The targeted individual is minding their own business. They're the only sane people involved in the scenario. It is just beyond. And then the other people in the world that are just blind to this stuff. I mean, it's mind-boggling. It really is. And the recruiting process can be both primitive and complex. People can really start to believe that the target is evil, they're subhuman or whatever, or they can really start to believe that they're better, I guess. But sometimes it's just fear and pressure, right? The last thing you want is to take the wrath of the majority. Of course, that doesn't apply to the leader perpetrator narcissists that are propagating this whole blizzard nightmare of insanity. No, that's for the people caught in the storm, right? The little family members or the underlings in a social group. They're the ones they're put under that type of pressure to where they'll have to make that choice. But of course, a scenario like this has reciprocity. The target or the scapegoat goes into a type of downward spiral. They feel the effects of the abuse, the lack of validation, the isolation, and all the other things that go along with it. They start to develop a type of complex post-traumatic syndrome, all kinds of things, depression, you name it. And, the people that are involved that have succumbed to this type of scenario, they're not out of the picture. They're going to go into their own downward spiral. And like I said earlier, it just intensifies the persecution and the abuse. And they go further into their delusion. Unfortunately for the victim, sometimes they don't survive. Unless the scapegoat has full realization that the people around them are evil and crazy, they're going to have a tough time. They need to salvage their self-image, and I've talked about the fact that targeted individuals are treated this way, and they are accused and abused, and they're supposed to internalize all that. That's the whole idea, because, especially for that family scenario, or just a regular type of narcissist, they're not going to take responsibility. They're not going to, even to themselves in their own conscience admit that what they're doing is just abusing you. They have to justify it somehow. Okay, there's got to be some level of justification, and a lot of times it could turn into a vendetta. So escaping this scenario can be complicated, right? Some people go no contact or whatever. But, if this person or people or whatever are really out to destroy you, they're not just going to back off. They're not. And they're addicted to venting on you. They're ruling over you. You're their little stepping stone, their kickball. And it can turn deadly. With targeted individuals, the whole idea is to drive them nuts, to destroy them. When you're dealing with someone with resources or a group of people, a secret society or whatever, people that are really hell-bent on, making good with all the effort that they put into your little scenario, is dangerous. And I've talked about that. Get a security system. Protect yourself. Take it serious. Because, when these people don't get what they want, sometimes it can get really ugly, and I've experienced that myself. You think there's limits, especially when you're dealing with family members. You think, oh, no, they're not going to do this, or they're not going to go that far. They will. It might just be a matter of time, but it is what it is. And if you're one of those people who have been threatened, we're going to drive you nuts, or we're going to, drive you to suicide, or whatever. And you're not reacting. They're not getting what they want. They'll just they're not going to just back off after they put all this effort in. Okay. And like I said, they're not going to admit that what they've been doing is wrong either. They've got to validate that. And they've got to get other people to believe that. And, heaven forbid that anyone on the outside of this find out. What if they get caught? They've kind of got to bury their little dirty secret. I mean, the success of this campaign is crucial to their getting away with it. Because who knows what's going to happen. And there are targeted individuals out there who are making leaps and bounds, and this whole thing is making them stronger. You're actually in that place where God is using it and working all things together, and you're actually a better person, and it's just driving them crazy. Because if anybody ever finds out what they've been doing that's outside of this circle, this conspiracy, this cabal of people, these zombies, well, they're in trouble. And they're going to have to admit that, and then they'll be subjected to hate and shame and dishonor. And that's why I emphasize just putting one foot in front of the other, not, coming to some type of radical solution, which is very tempting. Okay, I've thought about it. Maybe I should just go get these bastards. Because I sit around and wonder that, what if I go crazy and end up freaking out on somebody and hurting them or myself or something? At least put it where it belongs, because then people will be like, oh yeah, that person was crazy, they had cameras, I don't know what the hell. And you just think stuff like that, but you can't give into that. You have to know that when you do what you're supposed to be doing, when you don't react, when you follow protocol, it's going to come back. And, I'm not sitting around fantasizing about how these people are going to be judged or anything, but I do sit around and think about that. I wonder, how is that going to work? Because there's always that same reaction when someone gets caught or whatever. And, it's not like they don't have time to change. And the people in my scenario have been doing it for decades, And I've talked about that with other people too, is, who are you dealing with? It's one thing if you're dealing with someone who has some character defects or something like that. People make mistakes. They do, right? Or maybe they have a propensity. Or maybe, sometimes things get bad and you got to put up with it. But this stuff is just, it's purpose. It's done on purpose. It's done consistently. It's done with an intent and motive. And you'd have to assume, especially if you've been dealing with it for a long time, that the people enjoy it. They really don't have an excuse, And, what's it going to be like? I've joked around that, your picture is going to be on their cell or whatever, or maybe they'll have to watch a movie of what they've done to you while they're being tormented. Right? Because they're going to be tempted to make, oh, this isn't fair. I don't deserve this. Well, look what you did. What do you think that was like when you were, tormenting Nick? What do you think he felt like? And they're not going to be able to say anything. And they're working up that harvest for themselves. And you can't forget that. Just do what you're supposed to do and let them justly take the blame and condemnation for this whole thing. They deserve it. And the sad part is they've worked very hard to accomplish it. I've mentioned that several times. These people could be doing anything with their God-given resources and time, but they have chosen this. They have literally chosen it. Out of all the things they could be doing with themselves, they decided to do this. There is no excuse. The other unfortunate reality is that targeted individuals get to the point where they really start to believe it. They're gaslighted into believing that they deserve it, that these people have the right to do it. Their self-image is so critiqued from all these accusations and abuse, like I said, that can start when they're little, and it usually starts in a family situation, and I think it's spiritual, and they just have that horrible image of themselves. There's a lot of victims, a lot of children out there who are troubled teens or whatever, and decisions, and ruining the rest of their lives because they have that image of themselves, because they believe that they're bad, that they're evil, and they're just acting out that role. It's like role playing. It's like we're all up on a stage, and we're the good people and you're the bad person. It's like the Stanford experiment, and people just follow that. It's unfortunate. And then, of course, you have the victim who is going to be sent to a psychiatrist, right? People are going to get together. Many of you have experienced that. And what happens? The individual is further discredited. Now they're mentally ill, And if it's a child, you take your medicine, they have problems. And if it's a targeted individual, of course, they're just crazy. Some of this stuff, people should at least question it. If someone's hearing voices, and it's especially some of the things people are dealing with, who's to say it's not something environmental? Who's to say it's not electronic harassment or a demonic attack? Why is it always a hallucination or something that can be fixed with medication or some type of brain disorder that doesn't have any evidence to back it up? Very suspicious. And it makes you wonder, some of the psychiatrists will, they'll try to make the parents take responsibility, but I think it's far and few between, because you have that conflict of interest, right? The parents are paying the bills. Their clientele disappears. They don't have any money, right? It's that catch-22. It's like the healthcare system. It's profit motivated. They're not trying to cure, a lot of the health problems that are out there. They're trying to make money. But you really got to figure this stuff out for yourself. You do. And that's why I make these videos. I'm not here to tell you something you don't already know, more than likely. Okay? I'm here to give you validation. I'm here to help you and to remind you you're not alone. And to hopefully, if you're thinking about doing something harsh or drastic, that you don't do it. Because this stuff can drive you into a place of desperation, of hopelessness, or even anger and rage. And you don't want to make that mistake. You want to win. Because they've already lost. They just don't know it. Guys, be good to yourselves. Be safe. I gotta say.